Malcolm X, an African American who converted to Islam, a leader, and a powerful orator. Malcolm fought for his following of oppressed, unrepresented African American minorities. Everyone in his eyes were seen as equals, but how did he fight against segregation? He held protests, became a part of an organization, and even converted to the peaceful religion of Islam. All of these things helped him in his mind to have others do what he did to fight against racism. He had changed history forever in a revolutionary way. He wrote powerful speeches about freedom and how everyone was equal. A great representation of what he stands for in one of his quotes, freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody.
In rich nations, they say that the most powerful bloc in the UN are the African Asian bloc. These are the poor nations, yet they carry more weight in this political body than the nations do who have all the money. Why? Because no matter how wealthy America is, she only has one vote. No matter how wealthy Russia is, she only has one vote. Whereas all the poor nations in Africa who have just emerged into independence, they have each a vote too. And they stick together and are able to outmaneuver the rich nations. This isn't by having independence and the right to vote in the political world body, it has enabled the dark nations to band together and use the strength of their ballot to force the wealthy nations, which are the white nations, into giving more independence to other nations who are still under their jurisdiction. You and I have to look at this and understand this, that the ballot is as powerful as the bullet.
Malcolm wasn't alone in the civil rights movement. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. both were popular representatives for the African American people. Both stood up for minorities and wanted the future generations to be equal. During this time of both Martin and Malcolm, people saw them as the yin and the yang of people. They were total opposites. Malcolm's approach was more radical. If you were going to attack him, he would do the same to not be seen as weak. On the other hand, Martin Luther King Jr.'s take on the situation was more peaceful. All he wanted was peace and no violence, to yearn that one day no child will be judged on their color of their skin, but rather by them as a person. One of the biggest events in Malcolm's life was converting to Islam. He grew up as a Christian, which was called a white man's religion. It was often forced towards African Americans. Malcolm felt that no one could rule him or demand him to his own actions. His eloquent talks to the public is what made his voice heard. He created thoughts in urban communities to not be dictated by the Caucasians and to stand tall towards their decisions. Fight with a purpose and show that you are stronger than you really are. Malcolm's trip to Mecca, where his conversion occurred, caused him to feel this way. As he got more and more known, he started to take a stand in history. Various people came to his rallies, whether or not they were threatened. The unrecognized Africans were given hope that everyone would be equal, not to be judged by your ethnicity or color of your skin, to be perceived by your personality. His trip to Saudi Arabia showed Malcolm the other side of the world. Islam was seen as peaceful and to obey each other. That's the direction Malcolm took. The short-term impact Malcolm made influenced many African Americans. The influential acts made Malcolm X more recognizable towards Caucasians and Africans in America. This impact helped grow the population of the Nation of Islam members by 400 people.
Controversial remarks was a call for black people to get rifles and form rifle clubs some time back. Do you still favor that for self-defense?
I don't see why that should be controversial. I think that if white people found themselves the victim of the same kind of brutality that black people in this country face, and they saw that the government was either unwilling or unable to protect them, that the intelligence on the part of the whites would make them get some rifles and shotguns and protect themselves. Now, Negroes are developing some kind of intellectual maturity too, and they can see that by having waited upon the government to protect them has been a weight that has been in vain. So any of them who live in areas where the government is not able to do its job, then we do have to get together and do a job of protecting ourselves.
His return from Mecca changed him as a person. this was for the better. He had become more wise. His strong words of "by any means necessary" meant so much more. This term drew criticism, but Malcolm stood towards his word. Malcolm said, "Not a single white person in America would sit idly by and let someone do to him what we blacks have been letting others do to us. Whatever you did to Malcolm or his followers, the same would happen to you. It happened out of defensive reason."
Here in the Western Hemisphere, and first here in the United States, and bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary. That's our motto. We want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. We want equality by any means necessary. We don't feel that in 1964, living in a country that is supposedly based upon freedom and supposedly the leader of the free world, we don't think that we should have to sit around and wait for some segregationist congressmen and senators and a president from Texas in Washington, D.C. to make up their mind that our people are due now some degree of civil rights. No, we want it now, or we don't think anybody should have it.
Malcolm has made a humongous difference to the United States today. Many people accept colored people. There are no more segregated schools, water fountains, bathrooms, or anything that used to be segregated. Everything is equal now. Yes, there is still some racism in America, but not as much as before. The long-term impact Malcolm has made is sure to stay. Malcolm X was soon assassinated by some of the Nation of Islam people. They were followers of Elijah Muhammad, who was the former Nation of Islam leader. They did this because Malcolm X had exposed Elijah Muhammad for going under the Islamic rule. But when you create something so big like Malcolm X, his memory lives on forever and is still a legacy today. Without Malcolm X and his willingness to stand up for colored citizens, we as a country may have had more racism in today's modern world. With Malcolm, we as American citizens have had our 44th president be the first African American one. Malcolm was right. It is the ballot or the bullet. African Americans stood up and became able to have a word in society, become something in life. All of his pride and power caused all of this to happen. He is still very much realized as a civil rights activist. Malcolm X, remembered today, remembered always.